Cashflow Diary Podcast, episode 437.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the CashFlow Diary Podcast, the podcast that teaches you insider tips, tactics, and strategies for creating leverage streams of cash flow into your life. Learn from top-performing entrepreneurs, business owners, investors, and thought leaders from across the globe as they share their secrets to success. Like what you learn on this and other CashFlow Diary podcast episodes? Go to learninvestingnow.com and sign up to receive powerful tips and information that will help you succeed as an entrepreneur and investor. Now, here's your host, investor, entrepreneur, business owner, educator, speaker, author, and master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow game, Jay Massey.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast. I'm your host, Jay Massey, and I am glad that you are here today. Here's why. You've often heard me say, where you start isn't necessarily where you stay. And I think today's guest is definitely chief among them in that sense, because you'll be able to learn how some lessons from other possibly unrelated areas can help you and I learn how to run a business, make things happen, and more importantly, move forward. I have with me today Mitch Russo. Now, what's interesting is not only has he worked with Tony Robbins and Chet Holmes, names that you would know, he's also built and sold his company as well. Now, I know many of you out there, you want to build it, you want to make it awesome, but you also got to plan for that exit. But what's really cool is a lot of the work that he's done since then, and more importantly, how it helps you and I go out there, be bigger, better, badder in ways that we may not have thought of before. So I have a feeling you're going to want to take notes quickly on this one, because we're going to be asking lots of questions. We're going to do our best to pull out of Mitch everything that you need to know to make sure that you get started correctly, stay started correctly, and most importantly, grow successfully. Help me welcome Mitch Russo. Mitch, you there?
I am here.
How are you, sir?
I'm fantastic. A little hot today in Boston, but better than snow.
Hot in Boston. Don't think anyone's ever said that. I'm used to snow in Boston, but I get it. Well, all right. This being your first time here, though, I have to ask you the same question I tend to ask everybody the first time that they're here. You ready?
Yes.
All right. I tend to look at today's entrepreneurs a lot like yesterday's superheroes. You know, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, etc. And when I do that, because I think entrepreneurs and superheroes have a ton of things in common. Chief among them, occasionally, as an entrepreneur, we can envision ourselves maybe with capes and tights and flying around using our products and services to help people. But also, like a superhero, an entrepreneur has a beginning. You know, there's a time, if you think about with, Spider-Man, he was Peter Parker. He was just a kid going to school and taking photos, trying to make sure that ends meet. And then something happens to him where he gets bit by a spider and he has to choose, what is he going to do with this newfound ability? So my question to you, sir, is as follows. Before working with Tony Robbins, before Chet Holmes, before your own podcast that you now have going, before all the things that people know you for today, what we want to know is, who is Mitch Russo?
That I'm just a New York kid. I'm just a kid in Brooklyn, trying to make a way in life. And
hold 1 second. Yeah. For something happened, and I did not hear anything until you said the word New York. So what I don't even know what happened. I didn't even hear you. But I know that at the end of the question, that's fine. So all I need you to do is just pick up right with answering that question, because we didn't hear the first words at all.
Oh, that's terrible. Okay, we'll start again.
Okay, so snap in the microphone 3 times, pick up as if I just ended the question, and just go.
Well, I got to tell you, it's a great question. I'm really glad you asked. For me, actually, I'm just a kid out of Brooklyn. I grew up in the Coney Island area of Brooklyn, New York, and I lived by the beach, and every day my dad come home from work, and during the summer we'd jump in the water and hang out on the beach and run on the rocks and all the stuff kids do. But it wasn't until I was about 16 years old that I discovered that I had something that at least was different. I don't know if it was special, but it certainly was different from a bunch of the other kids. I mean, here's what wasn't different. I wanted to get to know the opposite sex, but I was so shy and so reserved that it was very hard for me to even begin a conversation most of the time. But
nobody knows what that's like at all. Never.
I know. Probably no one's ever done that. No one's ever had that problem before me. I realized.
Yes.
But actually what I did was I tried to figure out a better way to do it than the way I was doing it. And I did. I figured out a better way. And that was to start a rock band.
Of course. Yeah.
I mean, is there any better way to meet girls than being in a band? So
apparently not. It seems to still work, by the way.
Yeah. Well, it was at least my solution. I don't know if it was the best solution, but that's what I thought of. So I actually had been studying guitar since I was about 13 years old. So by about the time I was 16, I had just enough skills to copy other people. And I did that. And I was able. So we started this little high school band, and it kind of sucked. But it was a lot of fun. And we get together on a Saturday afternoon, and we'd play for a while. And, then we do frankly, like we did, as kids back then, is we'd roll up a joint, get stoned while we're playing. And,
right.
It sounded even better.
Indeed. We should go on a tour. Yes.
Yeah. Like, oh my goodness, I belong in Madison Square Garden. Are you kidding me? But actually, one day we turned on the tape recorder and we made a absolutely shocking discovery. Can you guess what we discovered when we turned on that tape recorder?
You were better than you thought?
We totally sucked.
Yes.
We didn't. What came out of that basement practice area didn't actually sound like music. More like some horrible noise. Maybe somebody dying. It was hard to tell. So I had a new rule. I said, okay, look, if we're gonna do this, then we are no longer no more getting high. We have to be disciplined. And if we're gonna do band practice, then you have to just hold off until later. And we agreed. And so we started doing that. And, we started to practice every weekend and sometimes during the week. And slowly but surely, by applying some discipline, we got better and better and better. And really, that was lesson number one that I learned, which was to be disciplined with yourself and your team, even if they don't like it.
Especially when they don't like it.
Especially when they don't. But it paid off because you know what it is? We were able to deliver a quality product. And that was lesson number two. Don't deliver a substandard product. And, they say that the price of perfection is bankruptcy. And that's true. I wasn't trying to be perfect. I just wanted to deliver a great song. When we played a song, I wanted people to go, wow, that's just like the record. That was great. So the other thing that started to happen is as we got better and better and we started getting invited to parties, we were asked to play dance music. And we were a hard rock band. I mean, we were playing Jimi Hendrix and Cream and dance music. Well, I guess we could try. And we did. And we tried to learn a couple of these dance music songs. And to tell you the truth, it didn't go very well. We just, the disco era had not yet occurred and we weren't really up for it anyway. So that was lesson number three, which really is to focus. And I learned focus from a very famous American philosopher. And I bet you know who he is. Can I tell you who it is?
Yeah, but please.
Colonel Sanders. Remember Colonel Sanders?
Finger looking good. Yes.
Well, remember what his other phrase was besides finger looking good?
Not yet.
We do chicken right.
Right. Yes. Okay? Yes.
So what does that mean? That means we don't do hot dogs right. We don't do pizza right. We don't do frankfurters. We don't do anything else. We do chicken right. So lesson three was for me to learn to focus. And we got the band focused on what we did best, and we did more of it.
I like it. So, okay. This is interesting because all of these things, I mean, you didn't become like a professional musician. You're taking these lessons from then and turn them into other things. I'm curious, before we go too much further, what happened to the other band members? Did they learn these same lessons too?
Well, I can't say that they learned them. We're kids. We all go different ways. One of us turned into a drug addict.
Okay.
Another one, sadly, walked out of a window and died from LSD. And another guy, I think, is a communications tech somewhere in Florida. So, I mean, we were just kids, and these lessons were, I don't know if I could have articulated them back then. It was really only later in life that I truly understood the moves that I made back then were many of the same moves I was making later as I became an adult and started moving myself into a business environment.
Okay. Well, but this does beg the question. You said something earlier that you discovered this, that you were different, but not necessarily, something special, but yet you've made different decisions. You were all there at the same time, experiencing the same things. What made you make different decisions that resulted in where you are today?
I have to say it's probably two things. One is my passion. I get very, very passionate about the things that I do that I love and about my clients. So when I work directly with clients, I get way, probably too passionate.
You want it more than them sometimes?
Well, that's the problem. I mean, yes.
Yeah.
And, that's why I've limited the type of people I now work with, because unless somebody wants what their future holds for them as much as I do, or hopefully more, then we're not a fit to work together, because I push people a little harder than they're used to. And my goal in working with anybody is to get them to the point of their true potential as fast as possible. And so I don't have time to wait around. I don't have time to heal their wounds and all that stuff. I'm really working with someone directly so that we can accelerate their process, their progress, and their income very, very fast. And the way I do that is by using the passion that I've developed over the years for the things that I love. And I happen to have discovered early on that I love making people happy. So I guess I'm a people pleaser.
Okay. Yes. I get that. I get that. So take us on this journey. How do we go from budding rock star to time slips?
Sure.
There's a journey there.
There's a journey, but I first have to tell you, and This is the discovery I made in the band, and it came about 2 years into the band, and it was a pivotal discovery for me. I realized and discovered that I had absolutely no musical talent at all.
It only took you 2 years to figure that one out.
Well, I had this, I really had set a goal. I was going to be a rock star. So imagine the life of disappointment trying to be a rock star when you have no talent, you see. So for me, it was a great revelation. I said, okay, now I realize I have no talent. Let's move on.
The hoop dreams and the rock star is over. Okay,
yep,
got it.
Yeah,
that's good.
Exactly.
It does have to come to an end, and that realistic understanding is helpful, for sure.
Yes, and I finally did learn how to talk to girls, so that turned out to be a worthwhile example.
Without a guitar?
Without a guitar, even.
Awesome. Progress. Loving it. Okay.
So at that point,
go ahead.
Without getting into super levels of detail, I ended up taking a job in the computer industry, and I moved to Massachusetts.
Okay.
And I loved computers. I still am a total electronics head, and although I'm nowadays, there are many people who are way smarter than me in this area, but electronics led me to be really to end up in college as an electrical engineer. But something along the way kept me going, and that was my motivation to have a great life, and my motivation to find a way to use my passion in ways that could help other people. And what I realized is that being an electrical engineer wasn't it. I love electronics, but I hated working as an electrical engineer, which I think I'm not the only one who discovers that sometimes.
Oh, I did too.
You did too.
Interestingly, I was a double major in electrical engineering and computer engineering technology, and was like, there is no way I could do this. No.
I relate, and I totally relate. So really, what happened at that point, though, is I started getting hired in marketing positions, and I started to accumulate a little bit of cash. And I stumbled into a bookstore one day, and a book practically hit me in the head called Nothing Down by Robert Allen. And I read that book, And I said, well, you know what? It's all about how to buy real estate with nothing down. And I got to tell you, if you could do it with nothing down, what would happen if you actually had a tiny little bit of money?
Right.
So I decided to go out and start buying real estate. And I read the book. Book was pretty clear. I didn't need to ask any questions, really. I mean, I was going to kind of do what the book said to do. And I just followed the instructions in the book. And I went out and I started buying apartment buildings.
Nice.
And yeah, I mean, nothing big, 2-unit, 3-unit, 4, actually 3 and 4 unit buildings. And that went really well. And I could tell a funny story about how I was almost died in a house fire that I was living in one of my buildings because the lady downstairs fell asleep with a cigarette that hit the couch and boom, couch flames. But I learned a lot of lessons about things like adjusters and insurance.
Yeah.
We'll save that for another time. But here's what ended up happening. At that point, as an engineer, I saw the salespeople who were really making the big money. I was doing well, and I loved my real estate, but I saw salespeople making a fortune. I said, you know what? I want to be in sales. And I went to the top salesman, and I said, hey, I'd love to join your team. What do you think about me working with you on the sales team? And he looked at me, and he had one of these demeaning, snickering looks on his face. And he said, you know something, Mitch? Great salespeople are born. You can't make a great salespeople. And I got to tell you, you're not one of them. Now, I had 3 words go through my mind at that moment in time. And they weren't curse words. They were 3 words that defined my next decade in life. And those 3 words were, I'll show you.
Yeah.
And at that point, I found another sales job and became the number 3 person in the entire industry selling semiconductors until the semiconductor industry tanked. And while the semiconductor industry was tanking, I was accumulating cash, dropping money into the bank every week. I was making about $30,000 a month in commissions. And remember now, this is like 35 years ago. And I didn't know what I was going to do next, but I knew I had enough cash to do whatever I wanted. And I started getting interested again in computers in a big way. And I decided to start a software company. And so I met with a neighbor. We came up with a great idea for a software company. We both quit our jobs. We started building the product and writing the documentation. And just as we're about to launch, the reason for having started that software company went away overnight.
I love this. Okay. Yes.
It was IRS ruling that changed our lives.
Wow.
We had built a product to keep track of time on your computer so you could deduct your computer from your taxes as a business expense. But once the IRS did away with that ruling, we had a great product that nobody would ever need.
Oh man, that had to be an interesting day, because I know as when entrepreneurs we're out there, we have enough. It's hard enough as it is, but when an entity outside of your control changes the landscape like that, how do you avoid the feeling of the rug being pulled out from under you? Hello there, entrepreneur. This is Jay Massey, and what I want to say to you is that the number one mistake that I have ever made in business, number one, has been waiting too long to do the books, waiting too long to get the bookkeepers, the accountants, the CPAs, the CFOs involved, and I don't want you to make that same mistake. That mistake cost me over 6 figures, and now for a significant discount, you have the ability to get your books together using FreshBooks. So what I want you to do is I want you to go over to gofreshbooks.com/cashflowdiary. Again, that's gofreshbooks.com/cashflowdiary. FreshBooks is the easy to use software designed to help you, the small business owner, the freelancer, get organized and save time on invoicing, getting paid faster, keeping those books in order so that it becomes a bonus for you to do your taxes as opposed to a burden. Go over to gofreshbooks.com/cashflowdiary and get started today. And now let's get back to the rest of the story.
I know. And, it was funny that day because I remember we were at my, we had started the business in the room above the garage in my house, and we were just leaving for lunch, and as we're walking out the door, I looked outside, and birds don't normally hang out in the front yard of my house, but my entire car was covered with bird poop, and it should have been a sign that something else big was coming.
Yes. Awesome. Got it.
So, but I didn't know that. So we went to lunch, came back, and then we discovered that we were out of business. And, the teeth gnashing and cursing and screaming and, this and that. And, oh, my God, what are we going to do? And, but here's what happened. And it was, I would say, I would call it under the category of a self-inflicted miracle, because we were determined not to give up. We were determined that we had just built something amazing, and it wasn't going to work in the form it was in, but there had to be a way to take what we had and use it and turn it into something even better. And in a matter of, I would say, 4 hours, we had figured out that we could take the time and time tracking technology and apply it to lawyers. So that's what we did. We rebuilt the software in about 60 days and refocused it on keeping track of time for clients instead of our computers. And we built a rudimentary billing system, and we built it by going to the library, the Boston University Library, law library, and borrowing the product manuals of existing time and billing software programs. And here was the key. Once we did that, we copied a bunch of features, but we still didn't know what we were doing. We weren't lawyers and barely knew the industry. Here's what we did that was kind of interesting. We went into the forums, and there's still forums to this day. They just call them Facebook groups. And we started talking to lawyers who used computers, and said, we're doing this. What do you think? And could you take a look at our software and give us feedback? And when we spent probably 2 months working with lawyers, working with them using a free version of our software, a beta version, to give us feedback. And using that feedback, we had crafted, at that time, the perfect tool for lawyers who use computers.
I love it. Now that's one way to take bird poop and turn it into something useful. I totally understand that. Got it. Now, take us up to today, because, that's the beginning of the company. That goes well. You end up growing it, selling it, lots of lessons there. But today, what does life look like for you?
Well, I went on to work with Chet Holmes, and then Chet and I brought Tony Robbins in, and together we created Business Breakthroughs International. And we grew that to $25 million a year in sales, and had a lot of fun doing it. And today, I do several things. I'm a strategist, and I'm a business consultant, and I'm a podcaster, as you know. And today, what I do is I would call them existing leaders. I work with leaders who want to become gurus, who have this amazing ability, who have this incredible talent, and who want to take that to the next level, and have gotten as far as they can go on their own. And they need someone to take them to the next level. And that's where I come in. I work with people, I get them to that next level, and I have lots of cool tools that I've developed over the years to help me do it. So I work with one woman who is a holistic coach, and she is soon to be a national star on stage. I work with another woman who is also a coach, but in the psychosexual role, and she too is about to emerge as an enormous, amazing leader in her field, and she's a PhD as well. So I work with people who are already successful, but know it's time to get really into the big time, to the next level. And that's my passion today.
That's awesome. So a lot of individuals that I've run into have this thing inside of them where, at first they're doing their work for a variety of reasons, and they reach this point of where, they're not working for the sake of work. They're working from a completely different standpoint. I guess, what inspires you to want to help others bring out even we'll call it the best of what's inside of the superhero?
Here's what it is, and I think it's something that drives many of us, particularly when you reach my age. You got to remember that I've lived an amazing life, and an incredibly lucky life, a gifted life. And when you do, and when you've reached this level, you realize that the only way you got there was from the help of others. And my belief is that if I want a world that I want to live in, and I want my kids to live in, then I got to help others create that world. So my goal is to change the world through others, through people I believe in. And that's really where I spend my time, and that's how I focus.
So in this journey, let's pretend for a second, as you know, that all the entrepreneurs listening right now are just wanting to grow. They're wanting to build their cash flow. They're wanting to make their entity that go to that next level. What would you say if you were asked, like, the top 3 basic things that typically get skipped but should be done, that often aren't being done?
I'm going to answer you, but you have to forgive the fact that I'm going to tell you things you already know. You okay with that?
I'm hoping it's something like that, but yes.
Okay. So most people who start businesses come up with a great idea, and that's why they start their business. And I think that that's a mistake. I think you'll waste a lot of time and money if you come up with a great idea and start a business. Instead, come up with something that people need. Come up with something that you want to learn and you want to become an expert at. Come up with something that literally exists as a hole in the marketplace, and then do everything you can figure out how to do to fill that hole in the marketplace. And don't stop until you have perfected filling that hole in the marketplace. Don't sell anything. Don't promote anything. Don't spend any money. If you're still working for a living, hey, we were all there. Now the time that you're spending that while you're not working is spent figuring out exactly what that need is and the best possible way to fulfill it. And if you do that, then you can build, quote unquote, a business.
Got it. Now, you said something that I want to key in on, because I really would love to hear your thoughts. There was a time, obviously, in the economy where we were very agrarian based, and then it was industrial, and then it constantly changes to today, where it's kind of like the new knowledge worker is what we all must learn to somehow be, because you mentioned becoming an expert. And I guess my question to you is, in the same way that the person told you that salespeople are born, which, well, ain't true. And many of us might not feel like we're an expert at something. So when you say become an expert, are you saying literally grab something, anything, or where you see a problem and learn to become that expert? Are you saying it could be something that obvious?
I'm glad you asked me that, because I left out a step, because it's so intuitive to me, I sometimes forget. The piece that I left out was that if it's not something you're passionate about, then don't even bother. Because if you're not passionate about it, you won't stick with it. You won't dig deeper. You won't get to see the real gold hidden below the surface, because that's always where the gold is hidden. So my belief is that if you're passionate about something, if you're willing to pursue it until you are able to help other people, even at a basic level. Remember, when I say an expert, it doesn't mean you have to be the world's preeminent expert.
But some people were thinking that. I just wanted to say that.
You're probably right. No, yeah. And I'm glad you pointed it out. The thing about being an expert is to be able to help people get to whatever next level you're at now or have already surpassed. So are there smarter people than me? Heavens, of course. I mean, am I Tony Robbins? Not even close. But you know what? I've gotten pretty far along the lines of where I am, and I could help a lot of people get to me, to my level and beyond. And that's what I love to do. And so can you, listener. You should be able to take somebody wherever they are and get them to the next level where you are or beyond. And by doing so over and over again, you will evolve to the next level yourself.
So I've got to ask you this because this was true for me. I mean, I'd done a number of things in the real estate world, and there was a time where I deluded myself into thinking that, I'll retire. But eventually come back, start doing and instructing and teaching and helping others to begin to do, their own journey, etc. And what I discovered was I actually enjoy that way more than I do actually just going out there doing the work in and of itself. And I'm curious to where you find yourself today. Is that the helping of others get to their next step? Do you find more fulfillment there, or do you want to go back and mix it up and build something new?
You know something, I know I love helping others more than anything else, but it doesn't preclude me going back and starting or building something new. And I've done that several times. But I've never lost the passion around helping other people grow their lives, build their business, and become better as a human being. And becoming better as a human being comes from developing character. And character comes from enduring and evolving through hard times. And, they say smart people learn from their mistakes. Well, you probably heard this. Even smarter people learn from other people's mistakes.
Trying to make less of those and learn more from others. Yes, that is definitely the goal for sure. Because you paid full price for the lesson, I'll pick it up at a discount.
You got it, baby. That's the way it works.
So today, what do you find yourself dividing your time between?
I have a couple of things that I'm involved in. Like I said, I have my private clients, of which I'm very selective about who I take. I also have my podcast, which I got to tell you, after all these years being in different businesses and having met some of the most amazing people in the world, I'm finally cashing in a lot of those chips by getting them on my show,
right,
and twisting their arm and making them share their greatest secrets,
right,
about how they evolved in life and in business.
And that's, what's interesting about that is that I find that to be one of the unsung or hidden benefits of actually being on this side of the microphone. It's like, wow, you get to meet so many people who have so many interesting things to say. In this journey, what would you say have been some of the most interesting things that you've learned and gotten people to share so far?
Well, I've done about 35 interviews, of which only 7 have been aired. And they're, as you know, these things, they trickle out one a week or so.
No. Let them keep thinking this is easy and we do it all the time and it takes no time whatsoever.
Yeah, right. And don't forget about how, because it's all free anyway, right? So it doesn't cost anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, this is nothing.
Don't reveal any of that. But here's what I've come across, and this is the best part of what I love about this particular position I'm in. I get to talk to people in completely different professions than mine. I get to dive deep into their business model and understand how they make money, understand how I could take what they're doing in that industry, in that business model, and apply it to others. And man, that is like a master's degree. Every time I talk to somebody, every time I interview somebody, I feel like I'm going to school. I love it.
Yeah. And it's hard. It's hard to believe, but yes, I agree with you 100% because there's so much to be learned. And in this age of knowledge where, having these little ideas and understandings can make all the difference for entrepreneurs. So let's pretend for a second that, someone listening, because I know our listeners, they vary in terms of where they are in their business. But let's just say that someone is experiencing these plateaus, if you will. At least I've seen it where, the first time you're after, 6 figures, and then you're after 7, or then you're going for 8, and you're on somewhere on that journey. What have been some of the basic things that typically take someone from 6 to 7?
I will make it completely clear on what the difference is between a person who's running at 6 and running at 7. And it's almost entirely their mental attitude. It's awesome. A mind game. That's what it is. And when you are running at six figures and can't get to seven, there is something that is holding you back. And you know what? I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm certainly not a psychologist.
Right.
And I don't play one on TV or pretend to be one.
Right.
In fact, my goal is not to understand what that is. My goal is to get you through it. And if I get you through it, you've proven to yourself in the real world that all of those fears and all that mindset stuff doesn't matter one bit. And once you get through it, there's no looking back. Very few people, and I'm sure there are exceptions, very few people go from 7 or 8 figures down to broke. Or if they do, they very quickly find a way back out. So the goal here is very straightforward. The goal is to get you past what's stopping you, and I don't care what it is.
Right. Yeah, because the solution often lies in between our two ears, which is I found to be very, very true. And I find that very, very interesting that you said the same thing. So when it comes down to it, what would you say, like if you just had to peg, sometimes you just know, what are those top things that tend to prevent entrepreneurs from making that breakthrough?
Sure. I mean, they're the same things that you probably already realized. Things like imposter syndrome, things like fear of success, things like fear of having it taken away from me. I mean, and I can go on and on with all these fears. And oh my goodness, who cares? Right. I mean, the bottom line is that you have to prove to yourself that you are stronger than your silly little ego who's trying to protect you from taking a risk. It's that simple. And
wow.
and I am not going to sit here and try and figure that out with you, for you, or to you. I'm just going to get you through it. And I'm going to make sure that when you get through it, you know you got through it. You'll look back and heck, I'm never going back there again. Never.
You know what I like about that is you're like, dude, it doesn't matter what it is. Get over it. Let's move on. I appreciate that. I am so appreciative of that attitude because it ultimately doesn't really matter. Let's just get over it and move on so that we can go out there and continue to create more jobs, create more value, and improve the quality of lives of internally and externally of those affected by our business. So I definitely appreciate that personally. So yes, please keep doing it. In fact, I know there's a number of people right now who probably want to pick up more of what you've been putting down and find out how they can, get more of what you have to share. What's going to be the best way for them to find out more of what you're up to?
Sure. Well, I mean, my website is mitchrusso.com, mitchrusso.com. There, it's sort of like a hub of all the different things I do. I run some specialized programs. I work with software companies, and I work with high-level coaches and trainers to build certification programs. I've been doing that for years, but my core joy is in helping people emerge as an authority in their field and emerge as a leader, and that's really the biggest kick I get out of life.
I love it. Yes, and it definitely sounds fun. For sure. Definitely sounds fun for sure. Now, as we wind down here, I have a question for you that I want to hear your answer because I think it's going to be enlightening for sure. Let's pretend that someone listening is, they're standing at that precipice, that edge, if you will. They think, you know what, I'm going to go do this entrepreneur thing. Or maybe they're going, you know what, it's time. I am tired of being Mr. Six Figures. I'm ready for 7. I'm tired of 7. I'm ready for 8. Whatever they're thinking, they're making that go up decision. And oftentimes I found that when we make those types of go up decisions, there's a companion that sticks with us, and it comes in the form of a voice, and it's in the back of our head, and it reminds us of what we're not, who we're not, and how dare we, and who are you, and it says all kinds of things. And in fact, some people are actually related to that voice.
Yes.
So my question to you is as follows. Let's pretend that, you know what, Mitch, they're actually going to do what you suggest, and they're going to do it in the next 24 to 48 hours. They're going to follow through. So what would you suggest that they do?
Well, I mean, if it's something that you can do on your own, then by all means, just get out of your own way and do it. Whether it's, upping your ad spend, whether it's booking yourself on stage, whether it's renting an auditorium and emerging as the speaker that you know you should be, then just do it. The odds are, and again, I'm not saying this is not self-serving, trust me. The odds are you can't do it alone, and it takes somebody to help you. So find somebody who's done exactly what you want to do. Make sure they've already accomplished what it is you're trying to do, and hire them, beg them, pay them whatever you have to help you get to that next step. Because no matter how much you pay them, what you're buying is your future. So pay the short-term down payment and take advantage of everything you really are. That's what this is about.
Yeah, totally appreciate that. It's interesting how the answers to our challenges often rely in someone else's brain. And we just have to go seek them and do whatever it takes to get them when they're that valuable. I definitely appreciate all that you've shared with us today. I definitely commend you for the work that you're doing, and because I can tell that it's coming from a place of passion. It's not you don't have to, but you choose to, and that's important. And I'm glad that we've been able not only to meet but also introduce you to a number of people who will probably be able to move their lives forward simply because they now know that Mitch Russo exists. And I want to thank you for sharing your knowledge, your insight, as well as your wisdom here with us today at the CashFlow Diary, sir.
Thank you very much, Jay. Really appreciate it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. It's time for you to move at the speed of instruction. What does that mean? That means MitchRusso.com. Very simple to do. In fact, so simple, you might not do it. So do it right now, because you heard what you needed to hear. You were waiting for that confirmation. Do I, shouldn't I? How do I move forward? Can this thing work? Who can help me get there? Well, now you know. And knowing is half the battle. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been fun talking to you today. I look forward to talking to you soon. Until next time.